Man, I got new glasses and I wanted to wear them. Excuse me. But then it creates this like big glare. So, sorry about that. Can't really do much about it now. It's so awkward when people walk by and I'm filming. Like, it's so obvious what I'm doing. But I like wanna hey. Anyway, hello, how are you? Happy Valentine's Day. It's the day after Valentine's Day for you, but today is Valentine's Day. Today we're gonna be talking about Saint Maud, which originally was supposed to come out in 2020, as we know, I believe in like April or something, and then it was postponed to July, and then just removed from the schedule altogether, and just they did not give us an update for a long time. It was released in theaters in the UK in October of 2020, I believe, and then it had a limited release in the US in January at some point, and then it became video on demand and streaming on February 12th of this year. It's streaming on Epix right now, which I wish it chose a different streaming service. I've never really used Epix and I had a lot of issues with it. I don't know if it's just I'm not as technologically savvy as I thought, but anyway, it doesn't matter. I wish they chose a different streaming service. Anyway, Saint Maud is written and directed by Rose Glass, who I found out is the same age as me. So, but this is her first full-length, big budget feature movie. So this movie is described as a drama psychological horror that follows a hospice nurse, Maud, who recently converted to Catholicism and is hired to care for a former dancer who is dying and is more focused on actually saving her soul. Now, for some reason, this seems to be a very polarizing movie. I think because it's done very artistically, it's kind of one of those artsy-fartsy movies, and not necessarily in a bad way, but when I had posted that I was watching this movie, I got such a mixed response. I had people DMing me saying they hated this movie and others saying they loved it. So there was really no in between. It was like you loved it or you hated it, it seemed, and I just found that really interesting. After watching this movie, I don't really understand the polarizing nature of it. Like I can't wrap my head around why it's so polarizing. Now, this is a very A24 movie. I mean, it is an A24 movie and it feels like an A24 movie. And as you guys know, that can be kind of hit or miss for me. Artsy movies typically aren't really my thing. I'm just really picky when it comes to artistically done movies. As we all know with The Lighthouse and me not liking The Lighthouse, which seems to be very controversial. Sometimes I do think A24 is a little overhyped and some of the movies they choose to be a part of don't always do it for me. And I think there are those fans of A24 that think that they can do no wrong, and that is just definitely not the case. They have done some kind of bad movies in my opinion. Now, the score of Saint Maud was a masterpiece in and of itself. I saw a lot of people talking about the score online. It is beautiful. I actually watched this movie with headphones in, which was an incredible experience. I highly recommend doing that if you're gonna watch this movie. The acting was very beautiful and emotional as well, and I loved the characters in this movie. They all felt real, but you cared for them, and I was just very invested in pretty much all of the characters, which is saying a lot. Now, normally I would critique a movie kind of like this for being a little bit slow or having more minimal horror elements, but I genuinely feel like this was the perfect balance of slow burn and horror mixed in. I feel like the horror that you did see throughout it, which some of it is body horror, stayed with you long enough to get you through kind of the slower parts of this movie. That is one of my criticisms of this movie, is the slower parts were quite slow, and I feel like a lot of people seem to be missing a lot of the horror elements in this movie. I did kind of have a feeling of where the direction of the plot he's just in the kitchen meowing. Like, I did have a feeling of where the direction of the plot was going to go, so I felt like it was a little bit predictable at times. So the end of the movie didn't really shock me or anything, but the end of the movie, like the last few minutes, that scene blew me away. My jaw was on the floor. It was so shocking and so good. I honestly thought it was going to end, before that scene, and it would have just been an okay movie, like enjoyable, but just whatever. But I feel like the very end scene just brought everything together for me. It gave me that last bit of horror to remind you, hey, this is a true horror movie. It was just amazing. And it honestly will stick with me for a very long time. Like, it's just a disturbing type of movie. And I did actually question about midway through this movie if I was even going to say that I liked it. You know, as I watch movies, knowing that I'm going to review them, I think about what am I going to say about this movie? How do I feel about it so far? Anything that stands out, things like that, you know, just in the back of my mind while I'm watching a movie. Halfway through, we get to a certain horror part and I was not a fan. I feel like that one scene of the horror elements that it chose to do was a little bit questionable for me. It's not my favorite mixture of horror. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about, but I'm trying to avoid spoilers here. It did only last the one scene, so I was very grateful for that. But, you know, when you mix a little sex in there, not really my thing. Sexual horror and things like that is just not for me. So there was only that one scene of it and it was very shocking, and in hindsight I can appreciate the way that they executed that and really showed the backstory and the background. This is also very vague. I'm very sorry. Can you leave her alone right now? She does not want to play. She's trying to chill. Just leave her be, thank you. So all of that being said, I will say that I'm not sure that this movie is a rewatch type of movie. Sometimes there are just those really, really good movies that you don't need to see more than once because of the emotional journey, the heaviness of it is just not a rewatch type of movie. Although it's amazing, done very well, definitely would recommend it, I won't rewatch it. Hereditary is one of those movies that I've still yet to rewatch. I do want to rewatch it, but the emotional just heaviness of that movie makes it very difficult for me to watch and rewatch. So that's why I have not yet rewatched it. This will probably be similar in, you know, to Hereditary in that I'm not going to be dying to rewatch it anytime soon. Now, watching it twice I think would benefit to understand all of the themes and symbolism in this movie, but because I knew that this movie had themes and symbolism throughout, I was really trying to pay attention to everything and try to recognize as much as possible. Same thing with Hereditary though. The movies that I feel like aren't rewatch movies are the ones that you probably should rewatch at least twice to fully understand them. So maybe I'm being a little bit of a hypocrite, but I don't like rewatching this kind of movie that's very heavy. So something that Saint Maud has going for it is ambiguity. Ambiguity? You know what I'm saying. It has a lot of strong symbolism throughout it. There's different themes going on, and I love that the concept of this movie is very much up for interpretation. There are different ways that you can interpret what this movie is truly about. I think this movie is enjoyable when watched straightforwardly. I think it's enjoyable when you think about all of the themes within it and some of the symbolism. I did see a review saying that this movie is a short, straightforward, and predictable movie about a nurse's religious beliefs causing a mental breakdown. And that is the most simplistic description of this movie, and it is so much more than that. And I don't want to be too critical of this interpretation because everyone is entitled to their own opinions, but I don't think this movie is that simple. Even if that was the basic overarching story of this movie, what about the commentary in this movie and the symbolism and the commentary on mental illness and religious fanaticism? I don't know how you could watch this movie and think of it as just a very simplistic plot like that. And I know I sound like a film bro right now, defending an artistic movie saying you just didn't get it, and I've gotten those comments so many times in the past because I don't like The Lighthouse and whatever. I've done a whole video on comments like this, so I don't want to come across as like condescending or pretentious about this movie in that way. But the movie is just so beautiful and full of symbolism and so much more than just average, in my opinion, which I keep seeing it get called over and over again, just an average horror movie. And I'm just questioning, this is why I was confused why this movie is so polarizing, because I'm questioning, did we watch the same movie? Like, I'm just very confused. As soon as it ended, I was like, I loved it. That was great. A lot of horror going on. Beautiful, like the score, acting, cinematography, gorgeous. What is not to like? Like, what about it is basic to people? I'm just genuinely curious. And I know some of you will comment saying why you dislike this movie, and I encourage that so strongly. I want you to tell me, am I missing something? Am I so shallow that I see this as a deeper movie than it really is? Like, I don't know. And I'm afraid to really recommend this movie. Like, I'm afraid I'm overhyping it because it seems like critics love it and the general audience is kind of meh about it. although I've seen other people say that they really love it too. So I don't know if I should fully recommend it. I'm going to, because I really enjoyed this movie and this is my channel and I get to say and recommend whatever I want. But it does seem like it's a love or hate type of movie. And I don't fully understand it, but I'm just warning you, maybe you won't like it. I don't know. I feel like if you go in knowing that it's full of symbolism and like it's a deeper meaning, then it really comes across, you know, as straightforward. Although I think straightforward, it's a great movie as well. I think you'll enjoy it more if you are expecting something like that. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Like I said before, I'm rather picky about my artistic movies, and this one really, really worked for me. I don't know if it was the way that it was portrayed, if it was just so beautiful of a movie, like well acted and scored and things like that, and written. I loved how the movie was written. I don't know if it was just all of those things doing it for me, that the artsy just worked in that way, if that makes any sense. And I'm very picky about artistic movies because I don't really like pretentious artsy fartsy movies, and I didn't feel like Saint Maud was one of those movies. It kind of reminded me of another artistic movie, Starry Eyes, which you guys know is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's not similar in a lot of ways because Starry Eyes is of course a lower budget, kind of more indie movie, but it's also another beautiful movie and symbolic and just another kind of artistic movie. It just reminded me of that level of artistic, if that makes sense. If you've seen Starry Eyes, I think you'd like Saint Maud, even though they're very different storylines and very different tones, but similar on the artsy level. So overall, I love this movie. I recommend it. It seems to be polarizing. Just bear that in mind. A lot of you are not gonna like it. I don't know why, but it's just one of those, I don't understand why it's so hit or miss for so many people. But if you like artistic movies anyway, I think you'd really enjoy this movie. I would love to hear your thoughts, good or bad, about this movie. I really want to know what you guys thought about this, because I was just so curious and wanted to talk to people about this movie so bad after I watched it. So please leave a comment telling me what are your thoughts about this movie if you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, recommend watching it. It seems to be controversial in a way. I don't know, but it was really good, really enjoyable if you're a horror fan. So definitely check it out and leave a comment. So I hope you enjoyed my review of Saint Maud, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Sing it, monkey. Yeah.